Hello everyone, Germ here, and I am back because apparently I just can't get over it. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. Sometimes it seems that exJWs become more fanatical than regular JWs. I mean, you're posting something on Twitter almost every day. If you're gonna leave the religion, why not just leave and never look back? Okay, this is actually a good question. It's one that I get all the time. I'm sure most of my viewers have seen it in the comments or they've heard it before too. If you've made content before, I guarantee you've heard it. I've always wanted to do a video on it because while I think it's a good question, it lacks compassion and it misunderstands the intricacies of the exJW community and who the people in it are. So let's talk about it. Why don't exJWs just get over it already? First, let's define what the exJW community even is. Contrary to popular belief, the exJW community is not just a room for a bunch of rejected toddlers to scream in because they didn't get their way. It's a large community with a lot of different people, and the reasons for all of them being there varies from person to person. First and foremost, it is a support group. It is transitory, and with any support group, the ultimate goal is for a vast majority of the people to move on from it. So I have to start by agreeing with you. Everyone should move on. That is the ultimate goal. We all want to enjoy our freedom and live our lives as if Watchtower were never part of it. That's what we're trying to do here. And it works. You will see a lot of people who are very active in the community for a year or two and, then they go their own way. It's not a monolith. People are coming and going all the time. Just because you continue to see people talking out against Watchtower does not mean that those are always the same people. Watchtower is a building. Picture it as an actual building. Freedom is outside, and the exJW community is the revolving door at the entrance, helping people to get out. Why do you need the door, you ask? Well, because not everybody has the strength to jump out of the window from the second floor and land on their feet. You're Superman, you managed to do that. We're all very proud of you for that fact, but you have to understand that not everyone is so strong, and a lot of them have been hurt, so they can't, even if they wanted to. Let's talk about the types of people that are in the community. This is important when we're talking about this because when people say just get over it already, they're being ignorant of a lot of factors. The first sorts of exJWs are PIMOs, physically in, mentally out, and they are the most overlooked demographic when people ask this question because how are you supposed to just get over it if you haven't left yet? If you're still forcing your way through meetings, you're still going to assemblies and the memorial, you might still be an elder or a ministerial servant or a pioneer. They are inside the lobby of that building, watching that door at the corner of their eye. They're communicating secretly with people on the outside until it's safe to leave. And who would be there for them to communicate with if there weren't an established community ready to help them get out, give them advice on how to get through that door? How do you get to that door without being noticed? Because safe is the key for these people. While you swan dived out of the window upstairs, had nothing left to lose, that's not the case for everyone. Some people have parents or children or close friends they can't risk losing. Some people are financially dependent on those people and aren't in a place where they can risk leaving without risking homelessness. They are not exJW yet, not officially, but they are every bit a part of the community as anyone else. Then you have faders. People who left the religion in a way so that maybe they would not lose their close family or their friends when they left. These sorts of people often keep track of what Watchtower is doing so that they know what their contacts in the organization are hearing. They need to be prepared if they get ambushed with something, with some new information or question. What did you think of that Watchtower article recently? Wasn't that a great JW broadcasting? Oh, sorry, I didn't watch it, but I'm still totally a witness. I still totally believe. Some of them have the goal of helping to reason their loved ones out of it. They want to help them escape, and their best chance at doing that is keeping up with what's going on. Sometimes they're still being coaxed into big events like the memorials or the assembly, and they're not fully free yet from the propaganda. They're like half PIMOs, I guess. They're in the lobby, hiding in the shrubbery. Now you have people actually going through that revolving door. There are real victims of this organization that experience trauma and they need help getting out. There are people grieving the loss of their support systems, the loss of people that mean the world to them. There are also people who recognize that their personalities and behaviors have been conditioned a certain way. They've been programmed and they want to do the work, the inner work, to strip themselves of all of that negative stuff. Things like homophobia, narcissism, misogyny, the list goes on and on and on of all of the different ways this religion can mess a person up. You may be asking yourself, why don't they get real help? Why don't they go to a real therapist? The exJW community isn't therapists, and you're right. However, you're forgetting that the organization has most people brainwashed and afraid of mental health professionals. Shedding that mindset is part of the process. It's step one to even getting there. There aren't a lot of resources available. Very few therapists are actually trained in cult recovery, and even fewer know the extent of JW specific practices or circumstances. Getting help from a real qualified therapist should happen eventually, I agree, but getting help from a community that understands you completely is a good first step. Remember that this community is transitory, it's not the end game. The door is moving, people are going through it. Now we're at the last core group of what makes up the community, and that is the activists. Activists come in many different forms. Sometimes they're doormen and women helping people get through that revolving door. They're there to offer their insights and help to people seeking to deprogram or to escape. Answers for lingering questions somebody might have, or to cheer on people who aren't really sure if they're ready to plow through and get out yet. Sometimes they're the crowd of protesters outside. They're screaming outside, they have picket signs, and they want to see this building shut down for good. And they all have good reason for doing what they're doing. They want to help. This is one of the very few positive conditions they learned as Jehovah's Witnesses. Your average Jehovah's Witness thinks that they're doing the right thing. They think they're helping people by giving them the truth. They want to save people. They have good intentions. When these good witnesses leave, that desire to help people doesn't just go away. They still want to help people. So they redirect their energy, and they have very legitimate reasons for directing that energy toward followers of Watchtower. There are countless abuses still being committed by this organization. People dying for refusing blood transfusions, people laid victim to CSA and seeing no justice for their crimes, abusive men allowed to run rampant over their families, children often physically, mentally abused, people whose freedom and autonomy has been stripped of them for no reason. Ideally, these people, the activists, have already gone through the steps of putting in the work to deprogram themselves and to fully understand themselves so that they're in a good position to help other people. Sometimes they're people who've moved on for a long time, but now they're coming back to help wherever they can. They're in a good place now and they can help. They have that burden of knowledge of what's going on inside, and they can't just sit by and not do anything if they are in a position where they can't help. These people too will often eventually move on, and others will take their place. They may return for a bit, the same way you would when you're driving by a house you used to live in or a place where you used to work. You know, what's going on in there? What are they up to these days? Let's check it out. So when you ask the question, why don't these people just move on? You're missing the point and misunderstanding who it is that you're talking about. The point is to put an end to all of this and to move on. Now I want to talk about you, the person asking me this question. Because this is a question I asked myself for many years. I was you. I left Jehovah's Witnesses and I moved on with my life. I dismissed them from my mind. I thought of them only when, someone else brought them up, or I saw them knocking on doors down the street, and generally I took pity on them. They were no longer for me, but I thought if anybody has the truth, it's them for sure. They really know their stuff, and it's really just too bad how people treat them. They're just trying to do the right thing. They're just trying to help people. So when they came to my door, I was polite and I was kind. I didn't challenge them. I accepted their literature, even if I was only going to throw it away in the trash as soon as they left, because they're just nice people. They're doing what they think is the right thing. The exJW community startled me And I thought exactly what you did. These people are so angry. Why don't they just move on? I've had no problem doing it. They're just bitter. They have an axe to grind. I didn't know it then, but I was what you call PIMO. Physically out, mentally in, and I suspect that's what you are too. There is a gradient to the degrees of PIMOism. There's your extreme, most obvious PIMOs, people who 100% believe everything JWs teach, but for some reason they aren't actually one of them anymore. Probably they were disfellowshipped, or the decision to leave wasn't their choice. And then there are PIMOs that are PIMOs as a circumstance of apathy. They don't really care that much to think very much about it. They don't get what all the fuss is about. They don't think their experience was particularly abnormal or worth talking about, and instead of pausing to reflect on whether or not that's actually true, they just decide to move on and not deal with it. Enjoy life. That was me, and to people like that, the exJW community, it looks a little scary and off-putting. But here's the thing, PIMO. Eventually you have to deal with it. Someday, it will be impossible to ignore. Maybe you'll see something on the news that finally sparks a fire in you. Maybe it will be insecurities within yourself, like, why do I feel this way when holidays come around? Why is it when something bad happens in the world, a lot's going on, I wonder if Armageddon is coming? Why does the phrase "return to Jehovah" flash in my mind when things feel out of control? It could be things that other people have pointed out in you. You don't forgive. You just cut people out when they wrong you. You're a bad listener. You always think you have the right answers for everything. You see everything as black and white. Your spouse is accusing you of gaslighting them. What is that? What even is gaslighting? You've been called a misogynist, but you know you're not, are you? You never really left the building. You're in the courtyard, enjoying a nice break. You feel the sunshine on your face, so you think that you're free. You're enjoying a good lunch, even though it's the same lunch you've always eaten before. Probably by the same kitchen, just put on a different plate. So you feel like you're out, you're safe, everything's fine. What are those people protesting up front mad about? Man, they need to get a job. Don't they have a job? Someday, you'll realize that there's work for you to do. I can tell that about you because I see you watching exJWs despite claiming to be a free and independent soul, but you're here too, caught up in the same threads as the rest of us. When you're ready to do the work and walk out the door, we'll be here to help you. It may not be me or whoever you talked to years ago when you demanded to know why nobody could just move on with their lives, but somebody will be here to help you. And someday, you may be ready to be that person to help somebody else.